Thank you for inviting me to be here. And I really enjoyed listening to the people that have spoken so far. They just really speaking from their heart and the experiences that they have had. You know, it's just, it comes with the territory that when you are born different or other than white, or other than a white man, or other than a white man who's straight. If you're not a white man who's straight, you are an other. And when you are an other, you live your whole life with that understanding, and you navigate through a world, and professionally and individually and privately, you live in a world and you navigate through a world that is always creating challenges and barriers for you. But you know that if I was fortunate that I had parents who navigated well through this world. And so they already instilled in me from birth of the difficulties that life would have in store for me, and that the difficulties could never be an excuse as to how I would move ahead. It's just a matter of navigating around the obstacles. And I know that when you invited me here today, it was very much to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which has become the touch phrases of the last couple of years. Many of us, like yourself, myself, we've been working tirelessly for decades. No one really cared about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in the last 2 years, it has become the forefront major piece of legislature coming out of government and coming out of a lot of corporations. Everyone eager for the public to know how much they embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion all of a sudden. They haven't for the first 100 years, but these last 2 years, they are really excited to open their arms and welcome us. But unfortunately, for a lot of us, even though things are being regulated, what it's bringing to the surface is an understanding of how deep-rooted racism is in Canada. That no matter whatever percentages or numbers or quotas you put out, even legally, there are those that will take more time and energy to navigate around those, to keep you still outside, to not include you. Because I work primarily in the screen and the entertainment industry, and by the way, Alex, when you register and it asks you to choose your profession, you have no option for the entertainment industry in your list of options. And that is also a reminder that Canada seems to be a country that does not value or understand what the Canadian entertainment industry really means. The images and the depictions that are consistently coming out on those screens are affecting all people's daily lives. Those are the characterizations, those are the stereotypes that are making people who are not in the entertainment industry, those are affecting your life daily more than any other industry that you can put your finger on. You could be minister of anything, you can run a corporation, but when you walk out the door, how the rest of the world views you is directly connected to the TV shows, to the commercials, and to the movies that are coming out. And so if we don't make change in those areas, then we will consistently be fighting against sort of the negative impressions that people have of, especially people of color, LGBTQ people, people with disabilities. All those are coming out of the TV shows and the movies that are being created every single day. Within our Canadian industry, the focus of DEI has been mostly around the hiring of people. That has been really the focus of probably most of the people here, making sure that a company is hiring more of the diverse people that we're talking about, Black, Indigenous, people of color, all the different sexual orientations, different genders, different everything. The only industry that we're not having, the only part of that we're not having conversation around is the DEI of the content that is coming out of the broadcasters and the producers and everyone in Canada. We're getting very good now. Let's use from a Bell Media to a CBC to a Chorus to a Rogers. I'm not pointing a finger at anyone. We're getting very good at saying you companies need to hire more people that are reflective of the rest of Canada. But there is still no legislation. There is still no work or advocacy towards who is reviewing the content from the early stages of development, not when it's shot, from the script to the development funds that are given to those people, to the production that actually happens, to you seeing it on screen. There are no checks and balances. There's nothing in place at this point. And I love something you said a few minutes ago, Alex. You said, the government is the top. Most everything that is coming out as content in Canada gets funding through Telefilm Canada, through the Heritage Canada, through the Canadian Media Fund, through Ontario Creates, Be Creative BC. All these different government arms fund pretty much everything you see. So they're in a perfect position to say that here are boxes that your script, your content, your whatever needs to check off to get the funding that we are giving you. So it's not enough that the producer be a person of color, which is where their thinking is right now. It's what is the actual content and how does that elevate the people and the community as a whole, so that the rest of society can function in trying to eliminate as much of those biases and those microaggressions that we all deal with on a daily basis. At Reelworld, we're in the middle right now of a research study over 2 years about the depiction of Black, Indigenous people of color who are women. Those depictions have been so damaging to Indigenous women, to Black women everywhere. The images that come out on screen about who we are as, for me, I'll speak of me as a Black woman, what my temperament is supposed to be like, because we've all watched the TV shows, the attitude I'm supposed to have, the anger I'm supposed to have, the aggression that a Black woman is supposed to have. All those things have affected me on a daily basis as I just walk through the world. Also, the over-sexualization of Black women, or the depiction that Latino women or Black women are somehow more oversexed. I don't know if you know, even statistically, Black and Latino and Indigenous women a lot of times don't report that they're being sexually harassed or that they've been raped or that sexually abused in any way, because statistics have shown that the general public believes they're exaggerating or believes that they really brought it on themselves in a way that they don't assume white women who make those accusations are. And that really comes from the film and TV shows that constantly show Black women scantily dressed and having an over desire for sex. I remember reading a lot in the 50s and 60s about women in the South who were raped by gangs of men, Black women who would be raped by many men, and the men would just leave money and go. Their assumption was every single Black woman was a prostitute. And those come out of the film and TV shows that keep getting perpetuated. I know that when I went to Ryerson, every single day, and for those of you that know Toronto, it's not Ryerson now, what is it? Metropolitan City something.
Toronto
I can't remember the new name.
University.
Exactly, it's something else. But every day from where I lived in Cabbagetown, I would walk to Ryerson along Gerrard Street. And every single day on the way, 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, on the way to school, I was propositioned because I was a Black young girl walking on Gerrard Street. The assumption was I had to be a prostitute. And every evening as I walked home from school, I was propositioned. I mean, cars would pull up, roll down their window, asking me how much. This is what we deal with on a daily basis it is humiliating at best. And it's the kind of thing that can wear down the confidence of a young person, a young woman. A lot of I actually just saw a French series called L'Opéra, and the only Black man in the entire series is a drug dealer. He is the only representative of a Black man in the whole show. And those kind of things are still happening. This is now. This is a new show. This is not something I'm talking about from, 100 years ago. I'm talking about right now. We are not getting conscientious enough. If we're really serious about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that has to include the content that your children are watching, because that's developing them immediately to understand who are the good people and who are the bad people. And currently, the darker skin you are the bad people. And the lighter skin you are the good people. And these are deep down things that behavior that is taught from watching a lot of this programming. So I'm hoping that we're also going to be looking at not just how many people are being hired in companies, but also the books that are being released, the movies that are being released, the series that we watch on TV. How are they impacting all the work that we're all trying to do? Because it can be counterintuitive to what we're all already working at. Do I just keep talking, or do people ask me things?
No, we're all enjoying what you're saying. I was just putting on the chat there. If you have any question, you should ask. Tonya has been gracious with her presence and her time to be here. One thing I wrote down: producers versus content, right? So there's over focus on the producers. The producers, they need to get more.
Or just the hiring in a company. Like, even if you're not a producer, a lot of times when you work at a broadcast, channel, you're in an executive position, you're working in an office, you're doing administrative work. This is good. They're trying to open up and create more diversity in those areas too. But I'm still very nervous about the actual content that's coming out, especially that young people see, and that's shaping their young minds as to who they are. If you're a young Black man, every time you turn on the TV, all you see are young Black men being gangsters and shooting up people. It doesn't take you very long to feel like that's how the world sees me. And yes, you might fall into being that young Black man because that's how the world is already identifying and labeling you.
Yeah, so you're doing a lot of work. So this content is an issue. I have issues with cable posts. I've mentioned cable posts 24 a million times today. They need to change. If it's a Black guy, they go, is it Black? Is 10 feet tall? And it's this. And if it's a white guy, they say it's male. Yeah. And he has a blue jacket. Yes. And he's on that corner, right? So how do we change that? We're not even talking movies here, which, okay, you have your right to do your movie, but you're giving news and you are just misleading people. The Black guy,
the news is a big problem.
Yes.
All I can say is the public has a lot of power. You need to write in. You need to let your voice be heard. You need to remember, a lot of people doing these things aren't even aware they're doing these things because they grew up that way. They grew up watching the news where a Black man, an Asian man, and they were identified, but when it's white, nothing is said. So it's behavior that has to be learned. None of us are born that way. We've been taught a certain kind of behavior. And now we're not hypersensitive to it, but people have always been hypersensitive to it, but people didn't feel comfortable expressing themselves and talking about how they didn't like it. Because trust me, Alex, our parents and grandparents had to listen to it for decades. It's just, they didn't feel that they were in a world that their voice mattered or that they could be heard or whatever they thought, could be as part of the conversation and included. But I do believe we're at a turning point, and these last few years have shown that, where they would be open to not just one person saying it, but to a collective, we're a large population of people. I also don't like the fact that people assume in Canada, because you are a person of color, you're an immigrant. that is also a microaggression. Like, you cannot be the real Canadian. You cannot be someone born here and lived here and had maybe generations of your life in the country, in this country, because there's still people that like to go, well, where are you from? You know?
Yes,
And you're
and
like,
we have
but
where are you
another
really
friend from?
Yeah, we have another friend of the Congress. Her name is Dr. Rosemary Sadley. I don't know if you know of her.
I know Rosemary, yes.
Yeah, amazing lady. And so when we had her in the church, it's like she's had how many generations? 7 generations or something Canadian. Like she says that still like, oh, where you really from? Where you really from?
Right. Yeah. Because it's
Yes.
just no way that if you're not white, you could be actually Canadian. But you know, when you said what can be done, there's not enough film and TV around our history. I'm not as concerned about the current modern stories. There are at least 200 years of valuable history where we have been washed out of. It's not that Black people weren't here for they've been here since, 1700s.
Yes.
Where are those stories? What is the contribution? There have been a lot of contributions of Indigenous people, of Asian people, of, lots of people were living here for hundreds of years and positively impacting and creating the country we call Canada. And those stories, I believe, are the stories that are going to change public opinion. Because the public opinion is we've somehow come here recently, meaning the last 10, 15 years, to take from Canada. And that's because the film and TV shows that I was talking about have not done a very good job by telling the history of the impact and the positive. It was a Black man that started the first taxi in Canada. Taxis existed, started the first coach, and there's a lot of inventions and contributions that we've had. No one's made that movie. No one's seen that movie. No one's heard of that story. People don't hear of these stories, Alex, until they're in a movie or until they're on TV. You know what? When they wanted kids to learn Shakespeare, they made a movie of Shakespeare's plays. If you want young people to learn things, you need to make a TV show or a movie about it. That is the easiest and best way for people to learn things. So my hope is that you and so many of the other people on here, you have a bias also, which is the entertainment industry is a light, fluffy, fun thing. It's like a fun, entertaining thing. I don't think you understand the power to change the world that can come from it. When we talk about George Floyd, and you mentioned that in your thing, the galvanizing of George Floyd came from an 8-minute video. The galvanizing of the world came from that. There is nothing more powerful than what you can put on the screen. And I would love all the communities of every company and organization to understand that that is the most powerful tool, one. And two, we have no power in it. The media has always been kept away from Black people, from Indigenous people, from Asian people. The media does not want us to have that power because that is the power that changes the world. So owning a television station is something I don't see people talking about that we need. When you talk about what you want on the news, why don't we have our own 24-hour news channel? Why don't we have our own studios and we need our own funds coming out of the government that also help people set up their companies that are the entertainment business, meaning like an actual physical studio where you can go and shoot things. Why don't we own something like that? Production companies that need to be set up. I think we're still in this mindset that, the entertainment is for really, silly, dumb people who just like to play around and pretend little things. But that's not it. Because I live in Los Angeles, Hollywood is the center of America, whether it's even politics, because you'll see all those past presidents and future presidents need to make friends here first. Oprah Winfrey was instrumental into Obama being president, because when she says something with her following, everybody listens. And she didn't build her power from being a politician. She didn't come up as a CEO of a company. She came up in the media industry. The Will Smiths of the world, the most powerful people, the Black people in America, come up from the entertainment industry. And we don't have that kind of thinking going on in Canada right now. So everyone is flailing because we don't have that centered stars and those people in media that the world is listening to. And we could have it, but our own communities aren't recognizing the value of it. And so that's something I would love to see changed.
Chrissy Benz.
All right, how much time do we have for Tonya?
We have Tonya till tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonya is like, that's a dream. Keep dreaming.
Talking about the power of Oprah, but something that came to mind is Adrienne Harewood, who spoke yesterday. You know, we were talking about CBC Indigenous. And I remember when people say, like, how do you know this stuff? It's because I have to go find a different channel or go to download CBC Gem to find Canadian stories that, you know, so it is a little bit on the periphery still of the, you know, even Oprah now, she has her own network, which you have to pay extra to access, you know, on different streaming things. So it's still not part of the main. So I just think when we're talking about calls to action is the call to action to, you know, diversify where we're getting our stories from and really seeking those out. And then I have 10 more questions.
Yeah, I would say that it's not one call to action. We have to change the majors that are already in existence. Just like in the States, there's ABC, CBC, CBS, you know, NBC, they're the majors. But 15 years ago, if I'd have said HBO to you, you would have been like, who are they? So those streaming channels, Amazon Prime, all those channels came out of nowhere. Netflix, I mean, those were not, Netflix was like, you know, nobody would have worked at Netflix. I mean, it was considered so down at the very bottom, but anything to do with media rises to the top very quickly because people are hungry to see themselves. I don't know if you've noticed, have you seen Netflix in the last 2 years? Netflix with its entire Nigerian platform of content, because they know this is where you make money. Yeah. They have Korean, you know, content all over. Did you ever think you would see Hallmark make movies about gay people? They didn't even want to have people like Hallmark, those Christmas movies. They were always the same. They were always white. They were always the same, a guy and a girl. And now you see there's Black people there, there's Asian people there that are in the leads. And then gay people in there. I was just like, I can't, that is a huge shift for Hallmark just in the last 3 years, because they were considered your total right-wing Christian sort of arm of the entertainment industry. But everyone is understanding there's dollars to be made. Yes, it's socially right to do these things, but you're also missing out on dollars. When up until the Black Panther movie, what people said was Black movies cannot be successful internationally. People said that all the time. And they didn't say it even in an embarrassing way. They were like, that's just the way the industry is. Black movies do not sell internationally. And then Black Panther was made. It is the highest grossing of any of those legend movies, Avengers movies, whatever they call them, highest grossing of all of them. It's not just because it's Black, it's because it's also a well-made piece of content. So one of the things I noticed is a lot of times the industry, Canadian industry, funds for people of color, they give it less money. They give that content less money. You cannot make a top tier quality TV show, a top tier movie with less money. It's just not possible. So the Black Panther was made in the way that all the others have been made. It was made with the same quality. Why would people not want to watch that? That doesn't even make any actual sense, because Black people live everywhere. Black people live in Yugoslavia, and not just Black people. Black people don't just watch Black people, and people who are not Black don't just watch their one color. They watch any story or anything that's exciting, that grabs their attention, that they love. When I was on YNR, it was said, the audience does not want to watch a Black family on soap operas. They don't want to watch that. And 5 years in, we were the most powerful family on any daytime soap opera. We were more powerful than the Abbotts, who had been there for like 30 years. So people will watch when the writing is great, when you've chosen the right actors, when you've put all the ingredients together. That doesn't matter. And Hollywood realized after the Black Panther that that's where the money was, you know. And so you see, what is it? What's the one, is it Black Adam, or the new one that's just come out? These are making mega bucks, and they're filling them with a lot of diverse people in them. We're just not doing it in Canada yet. We're still so far behind. The UK, the Australia, we were pretty much on par 20, 25 years ago. They have surpassed us. If you look at the great content coming out of Australia, especially around Indigenous people, that's worldwide success that people watch those shows. Those actors are known worldwide. And we still don't have, can you name me, this would be a great question for anybody here. Who's the biggest South Asian actor who's Canadian? Anybody?
Light up the chat.
Yeah, put it in the chat. Name me the biggest Black male actor that's Canadian. I think these are embarrassing things, by the way, when you can't think of them. I bet you can think of UK. You can think of it, Idris. You can think of people from the UK, and you can't think of anybody probably from Kenya. Who's that? Kanan? Who's Knaan?
Yeah, I think the point is clear. It's very embarrassing, as you say. Very,
yeah,
very.
So what are we doing about it as a community?
Mm-hmm.
Where are our stars that we want the rest of the world to get excited about? I bet you can name me, and this is when I think it's really embarrassing. I bet you can name me 5 Nigerian stars out of Nigeria.
Yes, that's true.
And that industry is not even close to the industry that's in Canada.
Wow.
How is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
You can go into Jamaica right now and they could probably tell you 4 Jamaican actors, stars, because every other community in the world is so proud of their own people, except Canadians. We are unique in this stance, and I don't understand. No, that person that just said that, it is not because of the proximity to the US, not at all, because the same Canadians go to America and become huge stars. So that's not about proximity. It's about that there's no value in Canada for the work these people do. And there's no caring or love given from the government down into this business that could put Canada on the map internationally in a way that no other industry can. But Canadians do very well. Black, white, Asian, whoever. Look at Simu. Everybody just has to cross the border and they do well here. So that proximity is even closer.
Wow.
Simu was struggling for, over 10 years trying to make it in Canada.
Yes, and that goes for athletes too, and for singers, and for speakers. I'm like some of the speakers I follow in the US. I like so they are from Canada.
What is that? I mean, I don't even understand that. That's where the research needs to be. Why is it we devalue our own in a way that even third world countries don't? Why
so it's interesting what you're saying, because like I'm a professional speaker, like I make my income speaking. And I was on the call with my friend, I don't know if you're still online, Hugh, last night. And I said, over the last 10 years, my income as a speaker is not from Canada.
Yeah.
Jamaica pays me more. Nigeria pays me more. Ghana pays me more. Malawi, they invited me to Malawi. I Googled it. Malawi is written for one of the poorest countries. And they paid me more than a Canadian company can pay me.
Yeah. What is that about? I don't even know where to start, with that, because there's just.
Yeah. So, but what is that about? Like, it's an interesting question that I don't, maybe we should ask Dr. Wendy Suke who do research to give us some data on this, because it's really weird. Like, I sit here on a Zoom call into Jamaica, they make a transfer into my account, and I am willing to drive anywhere in Canada, and I will not get paid half that.
Yeah. Oh, here's something else that I find interesting. There are shows in Canada, like Murdoch Mysteries, like there's some shows in Canada that some Canadians might not watch that much, that Americans are watching more, because those shows have been sold on the other side, and they don't even know they're Canadian shows, the Americans that watch them. This is just content that they watch. Obsidian was a great show. Cardinal was a great show. These are shows that Americans watched more than Canadians did. I don't understand.
It's interesting when you bring that up, like without the research anecdotally, I remember, and it's changing, it's gotten a lot better, but when you talked about the quality and the investment that we do, I know we give a lot of credits for American companies to come up and film. You know, I'm here in Vancouver, so we see it all over the place. I see Vancouver all the time on screen, except that it's Seattle, it's some other city. It's not reflected.
So it means we have the talent, so that the Americans come up to Canada and they use the same crews, they use the same everything, and everyone watches those, and they're proud to watch them and call them American, even though you see like 90% of the actors and the people.
Just look at them. Look at them.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
My goodness. Even Kiefer Sutherland.
Yes, even. And his father.
My goodness. I go to Hollywood sometimes. They put us on.
I know you had a long day. Yeah, I'm going to read it. I'm going to go through everything before I go.
Yes. Very, very interesting, actually. Very interesting.
So the other Tonya, is we could tell when it was a Canadian production. Right? Like you could see the production level, the level of investment, the way it was filmed. When I was younger, and like I said, it's better now, but we were being like, oh, that's Canadian, where it was like low budget, you know, then you didn't want to watch it. So you sort of built that, I think that built in my brain of like,
yeah, I thought that too. But remember, Nigeria started that way too. Jamaica started that way. Australia started that way. Nobody's content just was great. You know, go back. There's a lot of American stuff that's unwatchable, you know, just because they've had some hits. There's a lot of shows that are no good. So is that our Canadian trait, that we're unforgiving? Like, because it might not have been good 30 years ago, we're unforgiving that it could be good now. People are always saying, what is the Canadian, you know, what is the Canadian thing? Maybe that's just it. We are an unforgiving group of people. Once you show us something once, we never, ever give you a second chance. Is that it? But that does have to change. That really does. We're making great content, but the content around diversity, equity, inclusion, that needs to change. That has not improved.
Wow. Great conversation. My goodness, we can carry on this forever. Yeah, it's you open our eyes even more today. My eyes are they're a lot more open. Very interesting. I'm going to dig into that.
And Fareed was just right in that chat. Yes, that is not unique at all. It's just sad, Fareed, but it's not unique about Canadians moving.
Yeah, it's
quite.
I
want to give an award to Tonya because you did a mic drop where both Alex and I were silent. So that doesn't happen. When you ask questions of, can you name those top Canadians, we're both like,
nobody can ever. Nobody can. But you guys need to start by adding entertainment in your drop-down list of
I'm on it right now.
I was like, I'm insulted. You have everything else listed here, not entertainment.
Yeah. And so in Vancouver, I should be more aware, right? Like I literally all the time. So thank you. And I'm going to update it right now. So action.
That question, Tonya, was just amazing when you asked any of those names. You know, I was fumbling till when I thought of a singer, Cannon, who sang that Waving Flag, that World Cup song. But
remember,
honestly,
for people like myself who are in film and television mostly, we don't consider music industry as a part of that. So you still need to be able to name actors.
Yeah, so before I have one or two more questions, so we can also let you carry on with your day. Lydia, you have a comment. Lydia Courtney Francis joining from Grenada, the beautiful island of Grenada.
I've been there too. It's beautiful.
Yes, am I unmuted?
No,
can I be
we
heard?
can hear you loud and clear.
We can hear you.
Oh.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's 4:43 here in Grenada, so we're a little bit ahead of you. But just to say that, wow, what 2 days of, deep, thought-provoking and insightful conversations, actions, work that is being done. On this side of the world, we don't look at EDI that much. I think we seem to think it's a black-white thing, but it's much more than that. And so I look forward, given my association with ISG, well, Canadian Congress in this case, to really bring that kind of awareness to our people, because I'll tell you, it's seriously lacking. And so we accept so much, we go through so much, we're bullied, we're discriminated against, we're disenfranchised, and I don't think we even are aware. So I just want to say great start to the year, Alex, and I look forward to, of course, making my own contributions as and when. I was working, but I was paying attention. So I heard a lot, I gathered a lot, and I look forward to not just the conversation, but the outputs, because the result is in the action.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Lydia from Grenada. Somebody put in the comment earlier on, I think the comment went too fast. I don't know if you saw that. It says, what about the indigenous community? Now, I know, Tonya, you're doing something for the indigenous community. Is that correct?
Yes, because Reelworld is all about, it's Black, Indigenous, all people of color. So we do, when I say thing, I was only speaking at one point because of my experience as a Black person, but I have staff that are from all different cultures, and we have different programs that serve all the different cultures. But what we don't like to do is we don't like to lump people together. The Indigenous issues, all the issues are serious and challenging and barriers, but everyone's got different issues. And so what we like to work on is, I don't like to speak for a community I'm not for, but we have people on our board, and we have staff people that we have them who are from some of these communities speak on those better. But I find that, white people have spoken for all of us for so long that we now need to be in the place where I prefer you bring on someone from the Indigenous community to speak very clearly on those issues. So we take that very seriously. There's a word that is used, BIPOC. I don't use that word because it's become too easy to lump everybody together like we have one issue and we're all the same, dealing with the same things. But what the Indigenous community is dealing with is really serious and very different than what the Black community is dealing with, but both are difficult and hard and challenging on so many levels. But yeah, but whoever said that, I'm a supporter, and I fight behind the scenes, but out front, I don't try to speak for any of those communities.
Yeah, so
I'll speak for the Black community because I lived it.
That's right. So that was Angela Simono, and she said, I would love to see a major motion picture of the story of Native Americans and Indigenous people in Canada. For instance, about the Trail of Tears or the Trail of Death or residential industrial boarding schools. People will learn really quickly and really impactful about the truth. That's interesting. We talk about these residential schools. That's
really interesting. And what you might not know is those movies have been made. People are just not watching them. There's a difference.
Wow.
I think too, Angela, we know Angela a little bit. I know your heart on that is we need the education piece of this isn't ancient history. This is, if you know an Indigenous person, you know that they are either that generation or second generation of residential schools. What I also like, if we're going to talk about dreams to kind of wrap up the day, is Indigenous joy set in current times of people thriving and, living beautiful lives where it isn't about the pains and the plights. It's about, we talk about Black joy, Black excellence, seeing that. So a lot of, again, my connection being on women's is the horrible stories. I want to see beautiful female friendships that we don't get to see on TV a lot of times.
Well, I'll tell you about a great one, the incredible 25th year of Mitzi Bear Claw, made by Shelley Nero, who's an Indigenous woman. It's a great movie, and it is positive about an Indigenous community where the the mother and the father are together and they're loving kids and they're building, because that's what Shelley wants to do. She doesn't want to be in the trauma, you know, storytelling all the time. That's very negative and also very damaging to the psyche to constantly be making Indigenous movies or Black movies or any movie where it's just talking about the trauma of everything all the time, so that you don't see these people in just everyday families just dealing with sort of everyday issues and problems that all families deal with. So try and watch that. That's a Canadian filmmaker, Shelley Nero, and I love that movie. The incredible 25th year of Mitzi Bearclaw was great.
All right,
so
Angela,
getting made.
You wanted to add something to that, Angela?
Hi. No, I think it's just sad that as an Indigenous person that I'm not aware of these major motion pictures that have been made about us.
And how can we change that? How can Canadians change that? What is missing? Why we don't know these things? Because that movie it came and went, you know, and people, other than film festivals, people didn't see that movie.
Yeah, there couldn't have been much marketing like when you see on TV or on your social media feeds about these movies.
So maybe that's the thing that the government needs to change. You know how they license that these big corporations need to do a certain amount of PSWs? PSAs, PSW is something else. PSAs, there's a certain amount that Rogers, Bell, all of them, they have to do a certain amount of PSA around thing. Maybe a certain amount of their time needs to be spent on promoting Canadian movies to the audience, because if those filmmakers don't have the money to pay for those commercials, then maybe the government needs to legislate that a certain amount of those commercials, and if they legislate that, they have to put in the time slots, because you know they're going to put them in at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning when no one's watching. So
and you know, you were talking about that, and I'm also saying some marketing companies will not want to carry it. Rogers, when you were the first time I met you, I don't know if you remember, you came for a Planet Africa event. Right. I was supporting Planet Africa doing strategy then, and they were trying to get on TV. They're on TV now, Afro Global. And I remember a response that came back. John Tory, who's currently the mayor, I think he was in Rogers then, or the board or something. But a letter came from Rogers that told us, I read it. It says the Black community is not economically viable for Rogers to even invest in, and that they were not going to get Black people marketing product on the Black channel. And also they were sure that white people would not market on the Black channel. It was crazy. They put it in writing then. It was just crazy. So that was an eye opener for me. And of course, we took the fight up, and eventually, I know you played a key role as well to eventually get them to where they are. So, yeah. With that said, we just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, special guest. Thank you so much for always answering the call. You challenge us. Like, a year comes so fast that the challenge you gave to us last year, we barely just caught up, and you just expand the challenge. Why is that? Why you're asking us? Why is that? We couldn't answer you, as Mr. said, we were dumbfounded. So we have a lot of work to do. But I want to just allow you to go ahead with your day, and then certainly we'll be in touch. Thank you so much again, Tonya. Please go on the chat again, throw some loves in there, some virtual love and roses and thank you and claps, and put 11111 as we appreciate our own. She's in California, right? So she's Canadian, she's in California. Maybe I need to move to California. So
I'll be in Ottawa next week.
Oh yeah, please let's see. Hopefully maybe we could connect. I don't. My daughter is even there anyway. She's been asking for me to come see her, so we'll connect on email and see if I can catch up with you there. Thank you so much, awesome. My dear friend and sister. God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you.
Yeah.